The Imperial High Command, seeing no escape, opened the gates to the human forces. The Emperor, once a god among his people, was found sitting on his throne, silent. He had nothing left to rule. A new era begins. Humanity did not take the Empire's throne. They did not replace one ruler with another. Instead, they let the conquered worlds decide their own fate. Former imperial territories, once crushed under the weight of tyranny, now had a choice. And one by one, they chose to stand with humanity. Not out of fear, not out of force, but because for the first time in history, the galaxy had seen a power that did not seek to rule, only to end the cycle of oppression. The final broadcast. Across the stars, the last transmission of the Galactic Empire was sent. It was not a declaration of war. It was not a plea for help. It was an acceptance of fate. The Emperor's voice, once strong and commanding, was now hollow. The Empire is no more. With those words, the last remnants of imperial rule collapsed. And in its place, the age of humanity began. The legacy of the war. Humanity had not sought war. They had not sought conquest. But when war came to them, they had finished it without hesitation. They had shattered the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. Not through brute strength, not through sheer numbers, but through strategy, through unity, through the relentless will to survive. And now, as the galaxy looked to the future, one truth remained. Humanity was not just another species. They were a force that could never be ignored again. The war was over, but the legend of humanity had only just begun. Humanity's new era. The war was over. The Galactic Empire, once the undisputed ruler of 1,000 worlds, was no more. Its fleets gone. Its armies defeated. Its homeworld silent. But humanity did not celebrate victory with parades or grand speeches. They did not claim the Emperor's throne, nor did they carve their name into the ruins of the fallen empire. Because this was never about conquest. It was about survival. And humanity had done far more than survive. They had changed the galaxy forever. A galaxy without chains. For centuries, the Empire had ruled with an iron fist. It had enslaved entire civilizations, erased cultures, rewritten history to fit its own narrative. But now, for the first time in living memory, the stars belonged to no one. Former imperial worlds, once crushed under the boot of tyranny, looked to humanity for guidance. But humanity did not seek to govern. They did not demand loyalty. Instead, they offered something no empire had ever given before: freedom. The Council of Free Worlds. Rather than replace the empire, humanity helped build something new. A coalition of liberated species, where every world had a voice. Where no civilization would ever again be forced to kneel. It was not a government. It was not an empire in disguise. It was a promise. A promise that what had happened to humanity, what had happened to countless others, would never happen again. The Emperor's final words. Before the last remnants of the empire faded, the defeated emperor, now just a man, stripped of his titles, was allowed to speak. He stood before the Council of Free Worlds, his once golden robes reduced to rags. His voice, once commanding, now weak. "You think you have won." His words echoed in the chamber. But power is a cycle. Empires rise. Empires fall. And one day, you will fall too. The room was silent. Then, a single voice answered. Not from a ruler, not from a soldier, but from a human ambassador. Maybe. But if that day comes, we will not fall like you. Because humanity had learned something the empire never did. True strength is not in domination. It is in resilience. It is in unity. It is in never making the same mistakes as those who came before. The legend of humanity. The war had started as an invasion. It had ended with a revolution. And though the battlefields had gone silent, the impact of what humanity had done would never be forgotten. They were no longer just another species. They were no longer seen as weak, primitive or unworthy of standing among the stars. They were something more, a force that had defied an empire, a power that had rewritten the fate of the galaxy, a species that had fought for more than just themselves. And as long as humanity existed, one truth would remain. No empire would ever again believe they could break them. Because humanity did not break. They endured. They evolved. "Where are they?" he muttered. Then the alarms started blaring. A massive energy surge rippled through the system. Out of nowhere, human warships emerged from behind the planet's dark side. They had been waiting. Before the Empire could react, the first human salvo hit. Precision railgun shots, plasma lances, and guided missiles tore through the Imperial formation. Ships exploded in bright flashes. Fighters were wiped out before they could launch. The Admiral screamed orders, but it was already too late. The Empire had walked into a trap. Humanity's new kind of war. Unlike the Empire, which fought with overwhelming force, humanity fought with intelligence and efficiency. The Imperial fleet tried to regroup, but the humans didn't fight like a traditional army. They jammed communications, cutting the fleet off from command. They targeted fuel and supply ships first, leaving the warships stranded. They used stealth technology to ambush and disappear before counterattacks. The Imperial ships were larger, stronger, and more advanced. But it didn't matter. Humanity didn't fight fair. They fought to win. The Admiral's last stand. The Imperial Admiral's hands trembled as he watched his fleet being systematically torn apart. "How?" he whispered. He had faced countless enemies, led countless battles, but he had never seen a species fight like this. The humans didn't fight with desperation. They fought with strategy, with patience, with precision. They weren't just defending their colony. They were testing the Empire, studying them, learning. And that terrified him. As his command ship was surrounded, a final transmission came through. A human voice, calm and cold. "This is not a war you can win." The Admiral closed his eyes as the final missile struck. His fleet was gone. A warning to the Empire. Back on the Imperial homeworld, the Emperor received another message. This time, it was not just 5 words. It was a video feed. The wreckage of his fleet, drifting lifelessly in space. A battlefield where the Empire had been hunted, not fought. The Empire had spent centuries believing itself invincible, but now, for the first time, it faced an enemy that wasn't just fighting back. Humanity was coming for them, and they weren't going to stop. Humanity's war doctrine. The Galactic Empire had never feared an enemy before. They ruled thousands of star systems. They had crushed civilizations, erased species from existence, and rewritten the galaxy's history in their favor. But now they were afraid. Humanity had done more than defeat 2 Imperial fleets. They had humiliated the Empire. Their tactics were not just effective, they were terrifying. The Emperor sat in silence as the latest war reports arrived. The battle at Outpost Sigma had been a massacre, not of humanity, but of the Empire's finest fleets. "They were waiting for us," the Imperial advisors whispered. "They knew exactly how we would fight. They planned this." The realization sent a chill through the Emperor's bones. This was no ordinary war. Humanity had studied the Empire, and they had prepared. The unseen war begins. The Empire tried to regroup. They sent scout ships, spies, and probes into human space, hoping to learn more. But something strange happened. Every scout that entered human space never returned. Entire reconnaissance fleets vanished without a trace. No distress signals, no debris, just silence. Panic spread through the Empire's high command. "How are they doing this?" generals demanded. Humanity was no longer just defending itself. They were hunting the Empire. The perfect strategy. Humanity didn't fight like other species. They didn't rely on numbers. They didn't engage in direct battles. They didn't waste time on honor or tradition. Instead, they fought like ghosts, Cyber warfare crippled Imperial supply chains. Saboteurs infiltrated high command, leaking battle plans before they were executed. Imperial warships were lured into dead zones, never to be seen again. It was warfare unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. The humans had turned the Empire's own arrogance against them. And then, the first real nightmare began. The fall of Korak Prime. Korak Prime was a major Imperial stronghold, a fortress world with fleets guarding every approach, ground forces numbering in the millions, and planetary shields that had stood for centuries. No enemy had ever dared attack it, until humanity did. One night, without warning, the planet's defenses shut down. The orbital fleets received false signals, an Imperial distress call from deep space. Thinking their forces were needed elsewhere, the admirals jumped the fleet away. When they returned hours later, Korak Prime was gone. Not destroyed, not bombarded. Taken. Human forces had infiltrated the world without firing a single shot. By the time the Empire realized what had happened, the human flag was already flying over the Imperial capital of Korak. An entire world lost without a battle. The Emperor's hands trembled as he read the final message from Korak Prime. "You should have left us alone." The breaking point. The Empire's strongest fortresses were falling one by one. Not through massive invasions, not through brute force. Through strategy, through patience, through precision. The Emperor could no longer deny the truth. Humanity was not an ordinary species. They were a species designed for war. The Empire had thought themselves the galaxy's apex predator. Now, they were the prey. And the humans? They were just getting started. The turning point. The Galactic Empire had never known fear. For thousands of years, they had ruled without challenge. They had crushed rebellions, destroyed civilizations, and rewritten history as they pleased. Every species they encountered had either submitted or perished. Until now. Humanity was different. They didn't just fight back. They hunted, they adapted, and worst of all, they learned. The Emperor had watched in horror as entire fleets vanished, as fortress worlds fell without a single major battle. Imperial supply lines collapsed. Communications were intercepted. And then, the moment the Empire had dreaded finally arrived. The message. It came in the dead of night. An intercepted human transmission, broadcast across every Imperial system. A warning, a declaration, a promise. We are coming. 3 words. That was all. And yet, those 3 words sent panic through the Empire's high command. Because humanity never bluffed. The last Grand Fleet. The Empire had no choice. They had to act. The Emperor ordered the largest fleet in Imperial history to assemble. Thousands of warships, billions of soldiers, a final desperate attempt to crush humanity once and for all. They would strike at the heart of the human worlds, Earth itself. The Empire believed they were bringing the war to humanity's doorstep. But what they didn't know was that humanity had been waiting for them. The trap. The Imperial fleet entered human space with fire and fury. Warships the size of cities tore through the void. Their engines burned like stars. Their weapons, enough to reduce entire planets to dust, were primed and ready. And yet, there was no resistance. The humans did not meet them in battle. No warships, no defense fleets, no planetary shields active. Just silence. It was too easy. The Imperial admirals thought humanity had finally broken. They were wrong. Because the moment the Imperial fleet reached the edge of Earth's solar system, hell itself was unleashed. The ambush. Without warning, space erupted with hidden weapons platforms. Thousands of them, buried in the dark void, invisible until now. Planetary railguns, kinetic bombardment systems, AI-controlled drone swarms. The Imperial fleet had walked into a killbox. Ships exploded in rapid succession, torn apart before they could even raise shields. The Empire scrambled to retaliate, only to discover that their communications were jammed. They couldn't even scream for help. The admirals, once so confident, now realized the truth. This had never been a battle. It was an execution, the Earth counterattack. And then the real horror began. From the depths of space, human warships decloaked. They had been there the entire time, waiting, hidden in the dark. Unlike the Empire's massive, heavily armored ships, human vessels were built for speed, stealth, and precision. They struck like lightning. Eye-guided torpedoes ripped through Imperial dreadnoughts. Hackers disabled Imperial weapons before they could fire a single shot. Special forces infiltrated the command ships, seizing control in minutes. The great Imperial fleet, the pride of the Emperor, was being systematically destroyed. And Earth had not suffered a single scratch. The final order. On the Imperial homeworld, the Emperor sat frozen, watching the battle unfold on his grand display. His people had been so sure, so arrogant. They had believed this war would end today, with Earth in ruins. Instead, it was his empire that was burning. For the first time, the Emperor understood. They had never been the hunters. They had always been the prey. And humanity had just decided to end the hunt. The Emperor took a deep breath, his voice barely above a whisper. Prepare the last defenses, because humanity wasn't going to stop here. They were coming for the Empire itself. And this time, there would be no mercy. The battle for Earth. The Galactic Empire had never suffered a defeat like this before. Their greatest fleet, thousands of warships, billions of soldiers, the pride of the Emperor himself, had been obliterated before it could even reach Earth's atmosphere. The survivors of the Imperial fleet, broken and scattered, tried to flee. But there was nowhere to run. The battlefield had not been Earth's surface. The battlefield had been the void itself, and humanity had owned it. The shattered empire. The Emperor watched the battle unfold from his throne room, his face pale. His fleet was gone. Humanity had not fought the way the Empire expected. There had been no direct engagements, no traditional war formations. Instead, they had turned space itself into a weapon. Stealth ships had hidden among the asteroid fields, striking at the perfect moment. Kinetic rods, orbital spears dropped from stations hidden in deep space, had turned entire Imperial battleships into burning wreckage. Cyber warfare had blinded the Empire's war machines before they could even fire. The Empire had prepared for a battle of strength. Humanity had given them a lesson in strategy. The final stand. The last remaining Imperial warships drifted helplessly, surrounded by humanity's forces. They had no shields, no weapons, no hope. A transmission was sent from Earth. A single message: surrender or be erased. The surviving Imperial officers, once so proud, fell into silence. The Emperor, watching from his palace, clenched his fists. He had never considered this possibility. The Empire had never surrendered. But now, the choice was no longer his to make. Humanity's wrath. The Empire's arrogance had brought them here. They had attacked first. They had sought to conquer, to enslave, to burn humanity to the ground. Now, the roles had reversed, and humanity did not believe in mercy. The Empire's command ships were seized in coordinated boarding operations. Entire planets that had once served as Imperial strongholds found themselves surrounded overnight. Imperial generals, desperate to escape, discovered that every route had already been blocked. Humanity had planned for everything. The Emperor's choice. On the Imperial homeworld, the Emperor received a final message. A hologram flickered to life in his throne room, revealing the face of a human general. His voice was calm, cold. Your empire is finished. The Emperor's hands trembled. If you surrender now, your people will live. The silence stretched between them. The Emperor looked at the remnants of his once mighty empire. His fleet, gone. His armies, broken. His reign, over. For the first time in history, the Emperor bowed his head. The end of an empire. The Galactic Empire had once ruled over 1,000 worlds. Now, Those worlds stood under new leadership. Humanity did not conquer. They did not enslave. They simply removed the empire from the board. And in its place, they built something new, a galactic order where tyranny had no place. The war had begun with an attack on a single human colony. It ended with the fall of an empire. Humanity had not started this war, but they had damn well finished it. The empire falls. The Galactic Empire had existed for millennia. It had conquered, ruled, and crushed every species that dared resist. It had rewritten the laws of the galaxy, shaping it to its will. And yet, in just a few short years, it had been reduced to ruins by a species they had once called insignificant. Humanity had not just defeated the empire. They had dismantled it. The aftermath of war. The imperial fleet was gone. The emperor's grand armies, once numbering in the billions, were leaderless and broken. Some surrendered, hoping for mercy. Others tried to fight, refusing to accept reality, only to be wiped out in precision strikes. The war had not ended with a grand, glorious battle. It had ended with silence. No more imperial warships roaming the stars. No more imperial forces marching on foreign worlds. No more empire. Only humanity. The fall of the imperial homeworld. The last imperial stronghold was the heart of the empire itself, a planet that had never known war. A city world built on the bones of conquered civilizations. Towers of gold and steel stretched into the skies, a symbol of absolute power. Now it stood defenseless, and humanity was coming. For days, imperial citizens had watched the skies, hoping their fleets would return. They never did. Instead, one day, the human fleet arrived. Unlike the empire, they did not bomb the planet. They did not burn cities or slaughter civilians. They simply sent one message. Your rule is over. Surrender now. And this time, there was no choice left. The empire's arrogance. The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for thousands of years. No species had ever stood against them and survived. Every planet they conquered fell without much resistance. To them, war was a simple game, one they always won. When the Imperial scouts first discovered humanity, the Emperor barely paid attention. The reports claimed they were a young species, barely a few thousand years into space travel. Their worlds were few, their technology outdated, and their fleets laughably small. They will kneel like the others, the Imperial general had said with a smirk. The order was given. The Empire's warships were sent to the nearest human colony, Outpost Sigma. The fleet commander expected an easy victory. He thought the humans would surrender the moment they saw the Empire's mighty warships in orbit. He was wrong. The invasion begins. The Empire's fleet arrived above Outpost Sigma, a small colony on the edge of human space. There were no large defenses, no warships waiting for battle, just a few small orbital platforms and a planet filled with civilians. The Imperial commander opened a transmission, his voice cold and full of pride. This world now belongs to the Empire. Surrender, and you will be spared. There was silence. Then a reply came, not from a frightened governor, but from a calm, steady voice. We do not surrender. The commander laughed. He had heard such words before. Primitive species always had warriors who believed in resistance, but in the end, they all fell. Very well, he said. Destroy their defenses. His warships moved in, targeting the weak orbital platforms. The first blast of plasma fire struck. And then something unexpected happened. The platforms didn't explode immediately. Instead, they returned fire with pinpoint accuracy. The Imperial fleet's shields flared as railgun slugs and energy beams struck them. The commander frowned. This wasn't normal. The platforms should have been destroyed in seconds, yet they were still standing. Then, the real trouble began. The humans fight back. From the planet below, missiles launched into the sky. They were fast, faster than the Empire expected. They weaved through space, dodging counterfire, striking Imperial warships with deadly precision. "What is happening?" the commander shouted as explosions rocked his fleet. The humans weren't just defending themselves. They were fighting back like they had been waiting for this moment. Then something even stranger happened. The humans jammed the Empire's communications. The fleet was cut off from the Empire. No reinforcements could be called. No reports could be sent. For the first time in centuries, an Imperial invasion fleet was alone. A desperate retreat. The Imperial commander was now panicking. He had assumed the humans would be weak, but they were not fighting like a primitive species. Their weapons were advanced, their tactics were brutal, and their response was too perfect. His ships began to retreat, trying to escape the battle. But the humans didn't let them go. Stealth fighters, hidden in the debris of the system's asteroid belt, ambushed the retreating fleet. More warships exploded. More Imperial soldiers died. The commander finally realized the truth. The humans knew they were coming. The message. In the end, only a few damaged Imperial warships escaped. When they jumped back to Imperial space, the Emperor was furious. The loss of a fleet to such a small colony was unacceptable. But before the Empire could prepare a larger attack, a message arrived. A single transmission, sent from Outpost Sigma to the entire Imperial High Command. It was only 5 words. "They are here. We are ready." The Emperor stared at the message, his face pale. The humans were not afraid. They were prepared for war. And for the first time in history, the Empire was not sure if it could win. The first retaliation. The Galactic Empire had suffered a rare defeat. The destruction of their fleet at Outpost Sigma had shaken the High Command. It was supposed to be an easy conquest. Instead, it became an embarrassment. The Emperor was furious. He refused to believe that a species as young as humanity could stand against the Empire. It was a mistake, his generals insisted, a minor setback. The Emperor did not tolerate failure. He ordered a second fleet, twice the size of the first, to finish what the first invasion had started. This time, there would be no mercy. But the Empire had underestimated humanity, again. The second wave. The Imperial fleet arrived at Outpost Sigma, expecting to find a weakened enemy. Instead, they found nothing. The orbital defenses were gone. The colony was silent. No ships, no transmissions, just an empty world spinning in space. The Imperial Admiral frowned. And when the stars called for war, they won. The end of the Empire, the beginning of something greater. This wasn't just humanity's victory. It was the dawn of a new era, a time when no species would ever again live in fear of oppression, a time when the galaxy would no longer be ruled by the strong, but led by those who sought peace. And at the center of it all was humanity, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as the ones who had proven, once and for all, that no empire lasts forever, and that when the darkness came again, when tyranny rose once more, humanity would be there, standing, fighting, unbroken, forever.